to the Copy Blogger podcast. My name is Tim Stoddart. Hello, Ethan Brooks. How are you?
I'm doing well, Tim Stoddart. How are you?
Great. Your hair
Hey,
looks great, Ethan Brooks.
Thank you. What if we just like called each other by our full names forever? That'd be the
From now
weirdest
on.
podcast ever. Yeah.
Hey, everybody needs a gimmick. It would definitely be something that people would talk to. It's like, yeah, it's that podcast where they always use each other's full names, even their guests. Like, imagine if we had a guest on and
Yeah.
we just called the guest by his or her full name and never even said anything about it. That'd be
Never mention it. We could do that. We could do full names, or we could do like full Twitter handle, whatever that is. Like, and that would actually work well this week. I mentioned this before we recorded. There's somebody I wanted to shout out to kick this thing off. We got a guy, Mike. Mike's his normal name. And if this was any other show, I would just call him Mike. But his Twitter name is Mike, the 5,000 a month goal, and then $. It's at the 5,000 goal on Twitter. I'm shouting out Mike because he shouted us out. He mentioned the podcast that we did recently about, what were we talking about? You and I were talking about.
It was about last year and the lessons learned.
No, it was the one before that where we first started talking about the comedy thing, and you were like Buick.
Oh,
Remember that
yeah.
one? Yeah, he shouted that episode out, which was cool to see that had an impact on him. I guess there was some comments in there about AI and how like we're exceptionally socially attuned animals that he really liked. But Mike, the $5,000 or the 5,000 a month goal is a listener. So Mike, we know you're out there. Thank you very much. And he's got some cool stuff going on. Check him out on Twitter. It's at the 5,000 goal. Mike, you might need to work on that a little bit, but maybe we're going to make you famous just saying it over and over again here.
Thanks, Mike, the $5,000 a month goal. Appreciate you.
Well, actually, I should clarify. It's pounds. It's 5,000 pounds because he is in the UK. But he's building a newsletter. He's going to be writing about his trip. Well, what is how those trading these days? 5,000 pounds.
Pounds?
It's like
it leveled out, but not very well.
It's respectable. That's good. That's a good passive income stream. So he's going to be writing a newsletter all about how he grows to 5,000 pounds a month in passive income. Mike, thanks for listening, man. Mike, 5,000 a month goal. All right, Tim Stoddart, let's keep it rolling.
All right, let's go. I got a really cool show today. I want to talk through a sales and marketing strategy that, by the way, I had very, very little to do with. In fact, I had nothing to do with. I'm coming on the podcast and telling everybody how cool it is and how much it's benefited Digital Commerce Partners, which is our agency, which is attached to Copylogger. But full credit goes to Johnny Nastor. And you can follow Johnny at John Nastor, JONSATOR, which is really important because if you do ER, he gets a little bit annoyed, which I've clearly done many, many times. And, I want to start off with a little bit of a story. I've told the story many times by now about how when I bought my equity in Copyblogger, one of the first things I did is partner with Johnny and create an agency because that was just something I knew that we could do, something I knew that we could generate business, something I knew that Johnny, who is one of like the Copyblogger OGs, he had a podcast on the Rainmaker platform like 10 years ago when that was one of the biggest podcast networks in the world. So I trusted Johnny. I know he's a great SEO. I knew that we could get business. And we even talked about one of the case studies I did about how we got to $1 million a year within 11 months, I think, So $83,000 monthly recurring revenue, which is $1 million annual run rate.
Is it? Oh, wow. It is. That's all it takes to get to 1 million is 83 grand a month.
$333.33 infinity. Yeah. So we have the context. However, the truth of the matter is at the end of the year, our sales really, really fizzled. And when that happens, it can mess with your head a little bit because you think to yourself, was this just a flash in the pan? Was it the hype around Copyblogger that we had all of these new exciting things coming into orbit? And like, I don't know how much you've been in sales, but it's a It's an ebb and a flow, man. Sometimes you're feeling hot and everything that you touch closes, and then sometimes you're just done for a month and a half, and you start really, really doubting yourself. And so Johnny, um, we've both closed deals, but Johnny's been doing the majority of the sales and the marketing. He just took the bull by the horns, man. And he said, you know what? We've had a ton of business inbound through Copyblogger, but let me try something and let me try doing outbound. And I've never been that big of a believer. I shouldn't say a believer. I've never been enthusiastic about outbound sales. It sucks. You churn through sales reps so fast just because of how exhausting it can be. But he put together this system, which is so simple and has been so what's the word I'm looking for? It's not necessarily like it's revolutionary. It's just been so like executed so well. He executed on this so well. And so today I'm going to share this system with you. I'm really, really excited about it. Within the last 2 months, I think we've generated like 10 times the amount of leads that and quite literally, like we 10x the leads, and I think we 3x the sales. And
Wow.
yeah, so here it goes. All right. For people listening to this, I am going to do my best to explain it as though you're not watching on the screen. But if you want the best experience for this podcast, go to my YouTube channel and check out the Copyblogger Pod. All right. So I'll start at the homepage. This is digitalcommerce.com. Your partner for content marketing and SEO. I'm on the homepage of the website. We're the content marketing and SEO agency from industry pioneer Copyblogger, and we're bringing our demonstrated expertise to you. It's a pretty standard agency website. I mean, I like the design. It's true to form. Copyblogger, very minimalist, very copy oriented. Not a whole lot of hyper design elements, just clean to the point, bold faced headlines, and some good CTAs. What we were doing is the majority of our leads were coming through blog posts, which on every blog post on Copyblogger. So I'm on copyblogger.com now. And so we made sure every time we posted a blog, we just put this very simple CTA on it. And it's all we needed. Copyblogger gets so much traffic. You don't need a ton of traffic to this CTA, which clicks through to this landing page on digital commerce. So if I were to click on this CTA, it would go to a form fill. And like I said, we got to $1 million annual run rate basically just through this. But when we hit the little bit of our when we dipped in sales, Johnny found this program called Lemlist. Have you ever heard of Lemlist?
No.
Okay. It's great. It's this young, snappy French dude. He actually might come on the podcast. He and I have been talking on Twitter. I'm going to butcher his name because when you pronounce it in like American English, it looks like it says Guillaume, but I'm pretty sure it's like Guillaume is how you say his name. I'm going to say Guillaume. If I'm totally off, like, please don't crucify me on Twitter. I'm not French. What can I do? So it's an outbound sales product. But what it does is it allows you to create automations. And within the automations, you can really, really personalize them. So for instance, it's almost like ConvertKit, except for outbound emails, where you can put sequences together and then you basically scrape data through LinkedIn and just personal emails that you put in there. I've gotten so many spam emails over the years that I thought to myself, there's no way this stuff works. I've seen these emails a million times. I've never once closed on them. I don't even report them to spam anymore. I just straight block them now. However, I went out of my way and I took his course and I said, all right, let me check out this course. And his course was phenomenal. It was so good. And the reason why he has been so successful with his outbound is just because of the intense level of personalization that he added into this product and that he really incentivizes people to use when they send these outbound emails. Because the emails you get, it's like, hello, sir / ma'am. Let
Hello,
me blah,
Ethan
blah, blah.
Brooks. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
basically
exactly.
like coming on an episode of this podcast. Most of those emails are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so anyway, this product has been really cool. And
Wait, so tell
all
me
the
more. Like, what do you when you say personalization? What kind of personal? It's more than just first name or what?
absolutely. Yeah. So you can put in a tag which will scrape the domain of the person's email that you're sending it to and will automatically take a screenshot of their homepage of their website
What?
and put it in the email. You can do it where within the email, a lot of the examples they have is, so if I send an email, there could be a picture of me in the email and there's like an arrow, like I'm pointing my finger to a box in the corner, and excuse me, that box you can basically make the what's it called, the profile image, yeah, the profile image on their LinkedIn account, so you can literally put their own profile image in the email that you send to them. And that's important because a lot of the leads that Lendlist gets comes from LinkedIn. So like you're commenting on a recent LinkedIn post and then putting the screenshot of the LinkedIn post in the email. So I wouldn't want to say it's entirely automated because kind of the point of it is to not be super automated, but it's definitely it's definitely not going through contacts one by one on LinkedIn and like sending them emails. It's making it so that you can drop like 15 contacts in and
Wow.
send them all a real personalized email that is unique, and like every email that is sent is different, but it's all part of the same sequence. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's really
Yeah. And
cool.
and you can build sequences in this like
Totally.
ConvertKit so that whole structure just stays in place and you just keep adding new names to it. And you said, okay, so this is pretty cool. There's a couple things coming to mind that I want to talk about, but before I do, I just want to make sure I understand the full scope of like how you guys are using this thing. So you mentioned the leads, the leads that Lemlist gets are from X, Y, and Z, like LinkedIn.
Yeah.
They're also providing leads based on a
No,
certain.
no, 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 no.
Oh,
That's
most
that's
people
my
use it.
job. That's our job
Got
as
it.
the Limlist user,
Got it.
is to drop contacts in it.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is wild, man.
It's
So
cool.
give me some outcomes here. You said you guys 10x
Oh
inbound,
yeah.
or you 10x like the number of leads that you're setting appointments with, or how
Yes. So
what's the result been?
the purpose of Lemlist is to book appointments. And it's
Mhm.
important that you know that. Like Lemlist isn't necessarily a sales tool, it's a appointment booking tool. And so the leads probably more than 10x. I mean, it's to the point where we can't even handle them all. But the reason, and this is where Johnny's magic really, really comes into play. The reason is because I keep saying I'm so used to it. Johnny put together such a comprehensive sales funnel that it's almost impossible for people to say no. So here's how it works. If we were to create a Lemlist sequence, which I'm not going to show you the back end because that would have people's contacts, but just think of it like ConvertKit, except outbound. They all go here. And this
To the
is,
homepage. Or no, what is this? This
no,
is a
this is a
specific.
conversion assessment page. So digitalcommerce.com/conversion-assessment. It says, get your free assessment. Give us just 30 minutes and we'll transform how you sell online. This experimental offer is free for a limited time. It's a sales page, so it's probably about 800 words. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'll give you right below the fold. At Copyblogger, we've created hundreds of funnels generating tens of millions of dollars in sales. Then we thought, what if we distill our process down to its essence while retaining its effectiveness? Could this work in other markets? Our initial tests tell us it can, but we're looking to test it in more markets for free. Give us just 30 minutes on Zoom, answer 10 simple questions, and we'll map out a 3-part conversion funnel for you, delivered to you in 7 business days. And this is all quite literally what we're doing. Johnny books appointments through this conversion funnel. So on the conversion funnel page, there's some more copy. and then it's a simple sales page, or excuse me, it's a simple form fill. When he gets the form fill, he books an appointment through Zoom, and he spends 30 minutes on a Zoom call asking 10 questions. I don't know. He showed me the questions. It's all just learning about the industry, learning about their marketing. I don't want to call them typical questions. It's research. And what he does is he really does present a entire assessment and presents it to them. So people not watching the video, what you see now is about 15 slides that Johnny puts together, customized for every single person that fills out this form, at least everyone that we've booked a 30-minute appointment with and answered the 10 questions and all that. And we book a second appointment and we present this to them. And we basically present them like a higher level marketing strategy than most agencies would do, even for their clients that have already signed with them. And from here, we get the contract signed.
Wow.
Yeah. So
can I pause you? This is for people who are listening. Would you mind scrolling up about halfway? So just as a reminder for people who are listening to this, the agency is selling content and SEO, content writing and SEO services, right? So when Tim is talking about getting a client on the phone, you're really trying to sell them articles. What I think is so interesting about this, and I hadn't thought about, I knew you guys were in this space, but I hadn't thought about this over the last couple of months. What's so interesting about this is that this is the space everyone is saying is going to get disrupted by AI, right? Like, oh, it's so much easier to write articles now. Oh, ChatGPT is going to make everything so much simpler. So I hadn't realized, or even I just hadn't put 2 and 2 together, that you guys were selling against that. And to hear that you're basically doing it is cool. So now for people listening to this, let me talk in a little bit more detail about why I think this is so effective. So the slide that you're on, would you mind going up 2 more slides?
Yeah.
There's 3 slides in the middle of this deck where basically the first half of the deck seems to be about spelling out like the problem. It's restating a lot of the information that it sounds like Johnny's capturing on that call. Then there's these 3 slides in the middle where he basically is laying out top of funnel recommendations, middle funnel, and then bottom of funnel recommendations. And what I see on each of these is like, would you mind just scrolling up just to the first one, the top of funnel? Yeah. So what is the problem? And then it sounds like he lists a problem that the client, like the client's readers are dealing with. So in this case, it looks, the problem stated here is confused as to what futures trading strategies are the best solutions. Confused as basically what trading strategies are best if you're trading futures.
Yeah.
So it sounds like he's developing a content strategy in this case for some sort of financial type site.
Exactly.
Right. And so what he's doing is laying out like a very clear understanding of what's the problem you're trying to solve in order to get awareness. Here are ideas for content. Here's how that content would be laid out. Here's the keywords we'd be optimizing for. And like, here's a little brief description on it. Oh, and he's got a competitive analysis in here, like the top competing article. So what I love about, I mentioned the AI thing in a second ago. What I love about this is I think it's highlighting where the value really still is in people's minds, even though the AI stuff exists these days. Yes, GPT-3 can spit out a bunch of articles, and we know a bunch of people who are using that on SEO, but there's still space in the world for like humans who can think through what the problem is that a company's trying to solve, lay that problem out in a way that relates to other humans and show you how they're going to solve it. Like that's what you're charging for now. You're not charging for the writing anymore because the computer could just do that. What you're charging for, maybe not you guys specifically, but for people listening to this, what you're charging for is showing that you understand the problem set, you have a good solution, and like you have a plan for executing on it, which is what I see here. And I think that's why it's still effective, even in the day of like ChatGPT.
Well, that's exactly right. And I'm going to go one level further. Before I do, actually, let me stop the screen share. There's nothing else to really see.
Can I ask a question about this?
Please.
How much of that is templatized based on the like input forms that the customer is filling out. Or like, I know that every single slide deck is customized for each customer, but are you guys using like any of these AI tools to do some of the early breakdowns, like pulling the top competitors for each term, or integrating like the SEO terms or anything like that? Has that been incorporated yet?
No, no. I don't use AI for anything as of this moment.
Mm.
And I'll tell you why. And this is such a perfect transition, because the other thing that I wanted to talk about was some of the articles or press releases, I should say, that Google has released in regards to AI. So it's not necessarily an algorithm, it's a point within the algorithm. We call it EAT. We call it the EAT. And really what EAT does is it creates authority for websites that can be branded as what Google calls your money, your life. So it's websites about health, it's websites about finance, it's websites about legal advice, anything where it's like you're exchanging money for something that is directly impacting your life. And health, finance, law, it's a lot of it is about that. And so what EAT did is it made it so that the content that's going to rank for industries that fall under this your money or your life category all need to have three things: E, which is expertise; A, which is authority; and T, which is trust. So expertise, meaning who wrote this article, quite literally, who wrote this article, and why is that person considered an expert in this field. So this is why Wellness Mama, for instance, which was one of the biggest websites in the health space, got completely destroyed through EAT, because even though Wellness Mama is awesome, and my wife listens to her podcast basically every day, she didn't have any actual credentials to be writing content about health and wellness, where, for right or for wrong, Google wants to know that you have a degree, that you have actual credentials to be writing content about health. And so that's E, that's expertise. Authority means, what is this brand and where did you come from? And like, why do you have the authority to publish content about this? And then trust means, do other people on the internet, which, there's various signals that they come from, do other people on the internet think that you are a credible source? However, Google has recently said that there's a new factor in EAT. It's now EEAT. And that second E is experience. And so the thought is, if AI can make the most perfectly optimized content in the same exact way every single time, then what's going to stop the first page of Google to be the same exact content over and over and over and over and over again? Because if they're all perfectly optimized, what's going to win? And the answer is experience. And so Google is now creating changes to their algorithms, which decide that this content has experience, personal experience, based on what it was that the search query was getting at. So it's no longer good enough to just put the answer out there. The content needs to be like relatable through human experience, because you can get the answer anywhere now. But what people are going to be searching for more and more is going to be that empathy, that personalization. And so this whole entire spiel is kind of a put your flag in the dirt, to not necessarily back down, to go in even harder on these kind of industries and build these kind of businesses, because that personalized touch is going to matter more now than it did before, not less. And I think what we did with Lemlist and this sales funnel that we put together is really, really proof positive of that, because I mean, we're fucking killing it, dude. It's going great.
Yeah, that's really interesting. This reminds me of something else we've talked about here before, which is the potential to get burned by like adopting some of these tools too early.
Yeah.
And funny enough, I got in a Slack debate over this week. Because a friend of mine uses ChatGPT, he's probably the most prolific user slash business operator that I've seen so far. So one of the things that's kind of an open question for a lot of business operators is, yeah, this AI stuff is cool, but how do I actually use it day to day? Right? It doesn't matter that you can create avatars of yourself. That's interesting and novel, but I don't need avatars of myself every single day. Like, what's the day to day use? Well, this buddy of mine, he uses ChatGPT in like some fascinating ways. He's used it to build internal tools for his company, like just spit out the code that, his team basically just takes and puts in place and then uses for collecting leads for outbound sales. So he built one tool that grabs the IP address of anybody who hits his website, then checks that IP address against a list of known IP address owners to figure out what company owns the IP address, and then will basically show him which companies have employees that are hitting his website. And then he can start approaching those people as potential sales prospects, right? Because he's in the B2B SaaS space. So he's using it in real ways, but he's also experimenting with it on the content side, and it's working pretty well. And we got into this debate over whether or not that could be a potential problem, because as we've talked about on this show before, Google defines this stuff as spam. Any AI gen content is technically considered spam. Now, there's a debate as to whether or not they're really going to enforce the rules. But one of the questions that we've asked several times is, how are they even going to know? How are they going to know if it's AI content gen? Because it's so good these days.
Well, did you see that kid from Stanford?
No, what was that?
He created basically an AI detector in a day, and it's like 100% accurate. Hold on, I can find it for you. Somebody was just posting about it in the Copyblogger Academy. Which, granted, is 100% accurate now. I think, as machine learning, the whole purpose of machine learning is that it learns upon itself over and over and over again. But it was really, really interesting.
Was it called GPT-0?
I don't know. Hold on. Yes, that's exactly
it was
GPT-0. Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad. Okay, here's another example of you and I basically thinking on the same brain. So this is where I was going with it. We've asked this question before: how are people going to know if content is generated by computers? Because it sounds like it's human. It sounds so human, and it turns out to a computer it actually doesn't. So there's a tool out there called GPT-0, and it's really neat. If you
I'm gonna share my screen.
Awesome. Just grab. You guys wrote your own copy, right, on Copyblogger on one of these pages that you showed me?
Yeah. Well, this is on digital commerce, correct? So digitalcommerce.com/conversion-assessment.
Cool. Just grab like 4 or 5 sentences from that page and drop it into GPT-0.me. And what I'm going to show people. So for people listening,
what is it? GPT-0.nd.
ME, like me.
Like me.
Yep. Okay, so when that loads, you can drop that text in there. Here's the answer to how computers know whether or not something is AI generated, or really they're guessing. But it turns out there is a concept that's called, it'll spit it out in a second. There's a specific word. It's like perplexity. So there's a concept called perplexity, which relates to how well a computer can predict the text that you put into it. And basically, like, a lower perplexity score means that the text was more predictable, which means that it's more likely that text was written by an AI. And while the writing might appear to be human to us, really what happens is the way humans write is there will be weird clusters of perplexity throughout their writing. So if you were to chart it, what's that? Why is that? Did you hit enter?
I didn't hit enter yet. I was waiting.
Oh, go ahead and hit enter.
You want me to do it?
Yeah, go ahead and hit enter. We're going to let this thing run while I'm talking in the background. So humans will write with a mix of perplexity. So because we don't think about it, we just write. So you'll have some simple text, and then there'll be little clusters in there of like text that would technically have a high perplexity score. And so if you chart it all out, it's very spiky. It looks, there's ups and there's downs, whereas computers are much more level, or at least, AI gen. That's my understanding of what this thing is putting out. And so basically, if we get it working, this thing will basically analyze the perplexity of the piece across the piece and show you a text or a chart readout of how the perplexity score changes, and then make a guess as to whether or not it was written by a human or not. But it seems to be quite accurate. And it was so interesting to me to hear that, because we've debated this before. Like, how are they even going to tell? Like, maybe they'll look at how frequently you published or something else. But it turns out, no, there's actually this programmatic way to determine whether or not something is very likely to have been written by an AI. And that's an issue for people who were like early adopters to this, as we've said on this show, because it's still classified as spam. Even though it can work in the short term to boost your rankings, there's going to be rollout at some point where this stuff gets potentially penalized. Now, my buddy Spencer pushes back. His point is, yes, spam poses an existential threat to Google, right? But
Bing is like buying it or something.
But if people start using ChatGPT instead of Google dies anyways too. So maybe even though they classify this as spam, they might not enforce it, or they may not enforce it in the way that they enforce other types of spam. It remains open it remains to be seen whether or not this is actually a problem, but it was really interesting to see that there's a programmatic way to solve this. So overall, I think it's fascinating what you guys are doing. By the way, for people listening to this, I mean, Lemlist looks cool. The weird thing about this whole ChatGPT thing is, if you're playing with it, you could probably use it to spin up your own little homespun version of
an
app.
I wrote an email course on ChatGPT just to see if it would do it.
Really?
I could easily sell it. Yeah, for sure.
Ridiculous. I don't know where this whole thing is going, man. All right, so this shows it, and but I talked through it. I talked through pretty much this entire thing. People who are looking
how cool this is. It's your average sentence perplexity. Perplexity itself is an incomplete indicator.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, right? Like so I encourage people to go play with this if you're interested in this whole AI thing. But long story short, actually, I don't know. What is the long story short on this? First of all, you got a new outbound sales mechanism, which is definitely worth checking out. The tool, the concepts behind it, right? And then also just, also be aware of the fact that these tools are getting better and better at detecting the AI. And so while it is super powerful, it's not going to be able to trick people for long. I think a lot of these tools are going to be built to detect whether or not you're looking at something that was human generated.
Yeah, well, I mean, this one detected it right away.
Yeah.
This was only 4 sentences long. Your text is likely human generated.
Yeah. Very cool, man. All right, we're going to wrap that one up there today. Thanks everybody for listening. One last thing, I wanted to say this with the shout out to Mike up top. I forgot about this, but he's just starting his newsletter. And what I wanted to say about that, the reason I shouted it out is because, Mike, we've had people on here on this show who started their newsletter less than a year ago and have been incredibly successful with it. I want to be interviewing you less than a year from now. So go crush it. Good luck, man. And everybody else listening to this, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, Mike. See you next week, everybody.